Our last speech of the evening, The Psychology of Success, will be presented by Charlotte Lemkau.
You're the #1 ranked paddle tennis player in the country, about to serve the ball for a point that will determine who wins this year's national title. You're a world-renowned quarterback who needs to lead his team 83 yards with a mere 2:39 left on the clock to beat the undefeated New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. You're a golfer whose qualification for the prestigious Masters tournament comes down to whether this very putt sinks into the hole or misses it by less than a centimeter. Now stop. Think. What is going through your mind? Well, lucky for you, I know the answer. It was once wisely stated by baseball player Yogi Berra, 90% of the game is half mental. And while his proportions may have been slightly off, he was definitely onto something. Sports psychology is the study of how the mind influences the body during athletic performance, and it tries to identify ways for athletes to perform at their optimal level. As an intense athlete, I was always captivated by the idea of it, as if it contained some magnificent secret that only the best athletes were lucky enough to discover. But after spending the past year studying it, I learned that an athlete's mentality is no overnight fix. The key to success, not only in sports, but in all fields, is rather a lifelong journey of developing unbreakable self-belief. We'll start by exploring the path I took to grasp this concept. Then we'll venture into specific methods and insight that can fuel this confidence in daily environments, in the pre-competition stage, and during the actual competition. My life as an avid athlete started in 2nd grade when I joined my competitive dance team. But just this year, I took on competitive gymnastics. While perceived as similar, their environments differ heavily. At dance, you're just one member of a large team. But in gymnastics, it's every man for himself. You're on your own when you perform, when you're scored, and when you're placed at the podium. For a girl like me, who doesn't hope for, but strives for perfection, this climate of competition was eating me alive. My hunger to win morphed into a dangerous starvation. I forgot about the beautiful emotions I feel when I'm in action, because I was overpowered by paralyzing fear every time I thought about the fact that competition day was inching closer. But then something entered my life that changed it forever. A book, Dr. Nate Zinzer's The Confident Mind. In it lies a series of strategies, stories, and advice, helping the reader overcome the stress of competition. I was instantly able to connect Zinzer's every word to my own personal experience in the gym. The first techniques I learned could be incorporated on a day-to-day basis, meant for both in practice and after. Practice is the place for building not only physical, but mental strength as well. To fortify your confident mindset, you must flood it with positivity, mainly by creating positive memories. To maximize those moments resulting in success, the focus has to remain on the desired outcome. If I'm on the beam, I need to think about landing my skills, rather than not falling on my skills. Giving a negative idea like falling any attention whatsoever makes that outcome much more likely. Once you've mastered shifting that narrative, it's important to make the most of those reps. One of Dr. Zinzer's methods for this is an IPR, or immediate progress review, for after you complete a smaller section of a practice, workout, or workday. After I finish one of my 4 events, I mine out a gem or highlight from the work I just completed and carry it with me into the next task, to start off not only with a clean slate, but one tainted with positive energy. To solidify these memories back at home, I take out a notebook and write an S, and P in a vertical line. The E stands for effort, where I jot down a moment where I really gave my all. Next, the S for success, where I write about a time where I truly nailed something. And beside the P, meaning progress, I'll note where I saw improvement. Now, you may be asking, what happens to the less hot moments? If you just disregard mistakes, how will you learn from them? And you're right, in some ways. Criticizing yourself at practice can be a gateway to diminishing your overall confidence, but calmly analyzing or even reframing your errors away from the action is completely fine. Dr. Z helped me do this through nightly affirmations. For each area of weakness, I developed a reassuring statement. His rules were that they had to be written in the first person, in the present tense, and with strictly positive, precise, and powerful language. At first, I struggled on vault, and every night wrote I'd confidently approach, attack, and explode from the vault table, then easily nail the landing. As I wrote it, I felt my body doing it, believing it was true. With optimistic training in the gym and consistent mental work outside of it, this affirmation soon became a reality. But all of this practice is directed towards a greater goal: to thrive on the battlefield, climb the podium's top step, and carry the trophy home. Getting to that point starts the minute your alarm shakes you awake on competition day. From that moment on, it's critical that you reach a state of complete acceptance. Accepting the fact that you've done enough. Through research and interviews, I scavenged for the perfect answer of how to get in your final preparation during the 11th hour. Yet the overwhelming consensus was as simple as knowing you're ready. Even so, when you enter the arena, butterflies are still bound to be released from their cocoons. That uncomfortable sensation is actually one you should readily embrace. When you're about to begin something that matters to you, your brain sends signals to prepare your body for action. One part it cues up is your adrenal glands, which pump adrenaline throughout your bloodstream, leading to the shaking hands, loud heartbeat, and sweaty palms. This activity triggers additional strength, speed, alertness, and perceptiveness. But whether or not you wish to take full advantage of this human superpower is a choice you have to make. You can either view it as your body freaking out and a major drawback, or see it for what it is, a natural performance enhancer. The latter perspective redefines those nerves as excitement, and instead includes a vision of everything going your way. Right before go time, there was another specific routine that Dr. Zinzer recommended. It consisted of telling yourself a motivating cue that encourages you to accomplish the task at hand. Then taking a series of deep, controlled breaths, and finally attaching your attention to a visual target to narrow your jumble of thoughts down to one focus. For me, this was great in instances where it came naturally, but I would sometimes manage to overcomplicate it. I became so set on discovering the one perfect thought that had to be going through my head in order for me to succeed that I ran into a cycle of overthinking. The truth is, the most beneficial headspace is the one with the least clutter, and there's more than one way to reach that point. I learned that no matter what was streaming through my mind, I was still vulnerable to human error, but judging my own thinking only made that outcome more likely. At this point, the buildup is over. The spotlight turns to you, and the crowd's eyes dig into your soul. The moment has come to perform. The most valuable advice I received for this portion of the day came from 3 athletes who know about high stakes better than anyone. Remember that paddle tennis player I told you about earlier? His name is Drew Broderick, and he has indeed been ranked number 1 in the nation. When I asked him what he does to perform his absolute best, he told me that he aims to be as serious in practice as he is in a real match, but as relaxed and free in a real match as he is in practice. Think about that for a second. His advice for dominating the competition was not to lock in, but to loosen up. And there's science to prove that he's completely right. Cautious, analytical thinking in the midst of performance tampers with the mind's unconscious proficiency. Focusing on technicality and mechanics is fine when practicing a single skill, but it's most effective to allow the delayed returns of practice to take over when performing a more difficult series. My best performances were the ones where my mind felt light and wasn't overtaken with internal voices. Second in line comes Super Bowl legend Eli Manning, who interestingly enough worked with Dr. Zinser for over a decade. During our interview, I asked him how he managed to perform so well in situations where the outcome of a game was entirely on his shoulders. His response blew my mind. He said, "Those are the moments you think about growing up as a kid. When you're playing in the backyard and your mom gives you a 2-minute warning before dinner. You pretend the game is tied and the clock is ticking in the 4th quarter of the Super Bowl, and everything comes down to those last few seconds. Those are the moments you get excited for, the moments you crave. And when they come, all you're thinking is, this is where I want to be." He treated every history-defining play as the equivalent of a pee-wee football scrimmage. Not a petrifying moment, just something he loved to do and was good at. But amateur golfer and 4-time Walker Cup champ Stuart Hagestad helped me understand that to reach that point takes time. He said if he could tell his younger self anything, it would be not to concern himself with ranking, to get out there and learn how to win, whether he was at his best or not, because the more times you make yourself uncomfortable, the easier it will get. While nerves are still inevitable, you'll learn to understand that the outcome of a competition won't alter your life. I was fascinated to see how Stu's bright, glass-half-full attitude did nothing to detract from his intensity as an athlete. His healthy relationship with competing clearly only propels his victories. Despite everyone urging me to adopt this almost careless approach, throughout the season, I found it difficult to maintain on competition day. I prepare for a difficult skill, and instead of reaching for, demanded perfection, clouding my mind's ability to subconsciously execute. Then, when met by failure, I couldn't move forward smiling like I didn't care, because I did. But when I kept a frown plastered on, the result was only more mistakes. 5 meets went by, filled with a mixture of ups and downs. I was using Zinser's strategies, but just wasn't fully embracing the general approach. But Stu was right. I started getting used to being in uncomfortable situations and navigating how to succeed in them. With a month before my final state championship, I reached out to Dr. Zinser himself and was able to meet with him. Together, we set out a plan. I had put in the work and the reps. It was now time to trust myself. He encouraged me to envision the meet every night, picturing the noise of the crowd, the texture of my leotard, the beat of my heart. Then, imagining myself executing everything flawlessly. When April 28th arrived, I had watched myself win countless times. But now, I had to make those dreams a reality. And to do that, I had to let go. My mantra that whole day was simply go for it. And the feeling of relief, joy, and triumph when I did was the one thing I couldn't have envisioned. But my journey doesn't end here. Confidence needs to be constantly sustained, and every day is another opportunity to do so. Think about the weeks ahead of you. Is there a big game, meeting, or audition on your agenda? Because while you may not have the time to sit down and scribble down months worth of affirming phrases, you can still give yourself the best possible chance at success by going into it with not even a belief, but the knowledge that you are going to nail it. Thank you.